and welcome back to my channel, where I am revisiting some of my earlier class-related videos. Within this video, we will be picking up where we left off with advancing our Druid class character, and we will go over levels 12 through to 20. I will be sure to cover all of the features that your character is going to gain, and to point out any issues that might crop up over the course of these changes. At Druid level 12, your character is going to gain the usual increase in the number of spells that they can prepare while also gaining their next ability score improvement, and increase the duration of Wild Shape. So give me a moment and I will load up the character wizard here in order to show you what that's going to look like with respect to leveling up. And in case you haven't figured out, there has been a significant change since I recorded the previous Druidic video. And that is that you don't immediately drop into the character wizard right away. You land at this window. And in this case, I don't want to click on anything else other than the fact that I want to level up our character. And that's going to give us an entirely different window. Or set of selections, I should say. By clicking on that level up button, we are now presented with one significant change that's going to happen here. And it's not going to let us continue until we have chosen an option. In this case, I want an ability score increase. And I am going to increase my character's... I think we've already maxed out the wisdom, so I'm just going to take charisma and constitution. Let's bring those two up. And you will see that that exclamation mark has now gone away from this particular section and selection. So I'm going to minimize that. Now I still have to choose my additional spells. In this case, I have the ability to have 17 prepared spells, which is actually quite a bit for a level 12 character. Let's see. Is it going to give me... Well, I should be able to select anything. So I'm going to add heal. And then I'm going to add sunbeam. I might already know those, but we'll see. With that, this is now complete. So I'm going to go ahead and commit my changes. You're going to get a summary here. And I'm not entirely certain why the name has gone away. Let's have a look. Everything's there. And then I'm just going to hit save. So if you don't change the name, everything stays the same. But let me just check to see if I got... Yeah, I got heal and sunbeam here. Although it looks like I got that twice. So it does look like I had sunbeam already. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that off screen and then I'll be right back. So I went ahead and added Move Earth to our character's spell list there. And the last thing that I have to do is adjust Wild Shape here, and specifically its duration. We don't get an increase in uses at this point. So if you recall, the duration of Wild Shape is half of our Druid level, which means that I need to ensure that I increase this from 5 to a 6, because 12 divided by 2 is 6. Unfortunately, with Wild Shape, you don't round up, you round down. So when we hit level 13, this will remain at 6. So essentially, it's every 2 levels is where you acquire this duration increase. And you can see here that my charisma and my constitution have gone up. And it looks like my constitution actually went up by 1 additional point. So that means I need to take into account some missing hit points. At level 12, this went up by 1 point. That means I need to add 12 hit points to this total maximum value of hit points here. So that's 112, not 100. And that only happens when you have a modifier increase that occurs. And in this case, it occurred at level 18. Correction, I should say, when we changed our constitution score from 17 to 18, we get a +4 modifier as opposed to a +3. The only thing that I have left to do is to prepare some spells. And in this case, I'm going to choose these two. And if you recall, druids do have the ability to know all of the spells in their repertoire. However, they can only prepare a total number equal to their wisdom modifier plus their character level. So in this case, sorry, that would be druid level, I should say, not character level. So in this case, that would be 5 plus 12 would be 17. I actually just realized that I made a slight mistake with respect to the leveling up. I should have only chosen 1 spell, not 2. So I'm going to go ahead and remove Move Earth from this. There we go. At Druid level 13, our character is simply gaining an increase in their proficiency bonus, as well as our first level 7 spell slot. So if you look here, we're gaining access to our first level 7 spell. In addition to that, we will gain our usual increase in the total number of spells that our character can know by 1. So let's go ahead and level our character up. I'm not adding a class. I'm simply going to go through level up. You can see here that we're not gaining any other selections except for spells. And let's widen that so that that actually fits. And I'm going to select Firestorm in this case. Then I'm going to go ahead and select commit. And then save. Now, as we can see, we've had an increase in our proficiency bonus value here. So we are going to want to double check to make sure that we have nothing on this with respect to our character that actually uses our proficiency bonus in relation to any of their effects. And I don't believe we do in this particular case. No, we don't. What that does mean is the only thing we really have left to do in this case is simply prepare our spell. And I'm going to enable the level 7 spell here so that we can cast it. At Druid level 14, our character is going to gain their next circle-based feature, which I'm not covering in this video, as well as the usual increase in the number of spells that one can prepare, and an increase in the duration of Wild Shape, because remember, we have now increased our level by 2 since we last changed that duration. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and quickly do a level up within our character sheet. I'm going to focus entirely on our level increase. And save. And then I'm going to go ahead and simply make sure I modify the duration of Wild Shape. I don't need that expanded. So this goes from 6 to 7 hours. And I just need to prepare our additional spell. And that completes everything for level 14. Advancing our character to Druid level 15 is relatively simple. We are simply gaining our first level 8 spell slot, as well as the ability to prepare an additional spell. There are no other advancements that we're going to gain as part of this particular process. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly level up our character, choose our first level 8 spell, and control whether, I'm going to go Sunburst in this case. Commit that change and save that. I am then going to go ahead and prepare that spell. And as you can see, the higher levels generally have fewer required changes because you're not getting as much with respect to new features and things like that at this higher level. At Druid level 16, our character is going to gain their next ability score improvement, as well as their usual increase in the number of spells that they can prepare and the duration that Wild Shape will remain. So let's go ahead and add our level. Level up. We see here that we're going to have an ability score improvement. I am just simply going to choose this again because I've already shown how this process works, and I'm going to simply select that one. I want to be sure that this new change is going to simply increase that one by 2. Unfortunately, I see. You have to select the ability score twice. Aha. Neat. Okay, now that guarantees that you're increasing that by 2 points. Earthquake. Commit. Save. In case you haven't guessed, I have not yet had the opportunity to go through and fully learn how the new leveling up feature works. Oops, I want to actually change Earthquake so that it is prepared, and I want to modify Wild Shape so that its duration lasts 8 hours. As our character advances to Druid level 17, our character is going to gain 2 significant things. One, it's going to be the last increase with respect to our proficiency bonus. The next is that we are now unlocking the ability for level 9 spells. Beyond that, we are also going to have the usual increase with respect to the number of spells that we can prepare. So let's go ahead and advance our character to the next level. Widen this again so that we have access to level 9. And I'm going to unlock True Resurrect. Commit and save. As we can see here, our proficiency bonus has gone up. Any saving throw and ability score that takes advantage of that proficiency saving throw is now officially increased to its highest level that it can go without any additional increases here. And I just realized in the previous video that we had increased this. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of adding in the missing 17 hit points, which will be 176, I believe. If my math is correct. I am then going to go over here and prepare our level 9 spell. And that completes all of the changes that we have. And missing this hit point increase is one of the reasons why you always want to double check what stats went through and whether they actually have an increase in their modifier, because we would have gone at least one level and a number of quests and scenarios, possibly even a full campaign, without actually having the benefit of those missing 17 hit points. Or in the previous case, it would have been 16, but because I noticed at level 17, I had to add 17 hit points. Advancing our character to Druid level 18 is once again going to have a significant change in how the advancement process has been working thus far. This is the first time in a long while that our character is now gaining Druid-specific features rather than just circle-specific features. In this case, that's going to be Timeless Body and Beast Spells, and I will go over those in a moment. But there's one other thing that I want to point out with respect to our spell slot advancement. From this point on, we're only ever going to be able to cast one level 9 spell. Same with level 8, we've already only been able to cast one level 8 spell. At level 18, we are actually still only gaining the ability to add an additional 5th level spell slot here. It might not necessarily be wise to choose a higher level spell with respect to our character. I'm still going to do it, just simply because I like having these higher level spells and it gives me options. But you also might want to take advantage of the fact that you're still gaining spell slots down here in the lower levels. So let me go ahead and first advance our character. Pop that open, advance to 18. This is just the addition of those two features. There's nothing we have to configure. And I'm going to go ahead. I don't really need shape change, so I'm going to go with Storm of Vengeance. There we go, and that takes care of that. Let's go ahead and prepare that spell. And that takes care of our spell preparation and allows us to focus entirely on the two new features that we have gained. I should also point out that we actually do gain an increase in the duration that our wild shape here sticks around. It is now 9 hours. By the time your character reaches level 18, they've effectively become so attuned to the natural magic of the world that they no longer age as quickly as they once did. And this is what Timeless Body gives us. It's not a feature that gets added to our character's actions page because it's not something that is an action. It is something that is passive and it affects how your character ages, not any action that will deal with how your character ages. However, let's say that by the time your character reaches level 18, they have aged to 21 years of age. Once they acquire this, they would have to then become 31 years of age before they would actually see 1 year's worth of changes with respect to their body. However, when you're at a younger age like that, that's not really going to be something that is obvious, but it becomes a lot more obvious the older your character gets. This does mean, though, that if your character's average age is 100 years, they could theoretically hit 1,000 years before their body would be equal to roughly 100 years of age, without having this capability. And for the longer-lived races like elves and dwarves, that really increases the duration that those characters can be around in the world and have a larger impact at those higher levels. With respect to beast spells, your character is finally unlocking the ability to cast spells that use semantic and verbal components while they're in their wild shape form. Until now, your character has been unable to cast any spell while in their wild shape, and this is where they can at least begin to be able to cast some of those spells. However, any spell that requires a material component is still uncastable while your character is in their wild shape form. At Druid level 19, your character is going to gain their last ability score improvement, as well as unlocking another level 6 spell slot and the usual number of increases in the spells that they can prepare. So let's go ahead and quickly level our character up. With respect to this, I'm just simply going to once again choose to increase a particular stat. And I'm going to take dexterity and bring that up. Then I'm going to choose another spell, and in this case, I'm going to choose a level 6. I just wish that with respect to this, spells that you already know are not shown in this list. What was on this? Windwalk. I'm going to choose that. Alrighty, commit and then save. And once again, I got to go through and actually select the ability to prepare that spell. So let's go ahead and add that. And that is everything that we have to do for level 19. And finally, at Druid level 20, your character is going to gain the Archdruid feature. as well as an additional level 7 spell slot, the usual number of increase in the number of spells that they can prepare, and finally the last increase in duration of their wild shape feature. So first, let me go ahead and advance our character. Level up. This just gives you a summary of the feature. And I'm going to go ahead and add in a level 7. Let's do plane shift. Commit and save. I am then going to quickly go and ensure that that level 7 spell is prepared. There we go. And before I modify the duration of our wild shape feature here, I actually want to go over the Archdruid feature because it does have an effect on this. The Archdruid feature is actually granting our character the ability to change into the wild shape feature multiple times between rests. You effectively no longer have a limitation of 2 times per day. You do, however, still have the limit of 10 hours per change. So while the duration still applies, you no longer have to worry about it because you can effectively change back into a wild shape form as soon as your wild shape form expires. Additionally, your character no longer needs to use verbal or semantic spell components while casting spells, as well as any material components as long as those material components don't have a cost associated with them, and this applies to both your wild shape and your normal form. However, there is one thing that I think should be pointed out here, and I'm pretty certain this is the case. I've done a little bit of research, and this seems to be a consensus across DMs. If there is still a cost associated with the spell component, it can still be ignored if and only if the spell component is not consumed during the process, meaning that if that spell requires a 500 gold piece diamond in order for it to be cast, but that diamond is consumed during that spell, you would not be able to ignore the fact that you need that diamond. You still have to have that on hand. A perfect example of that is with the True Resurrection spell here. It requires a diamond that is worth 25,000 gold pieces, and it's going to consume it. That means your character has to have this diamond on hand in order to be able to cast this spell. Storm of Vengeance, however, doesn't have any material cost here. It's only verbal and semantic, which means you can cast that at will. Well, not at will. You still have to have a spell slot, but you can do it in either form without having to have any ability to speak it. It'll just instantly happen. However, something like Earthquake, while it does have a material component, that material component isn't consumed, which means you can ignore the fact that you require it, it doesn't consume it, and you get to cast this in either form. And if you think about it, by the time your character hits level 20, they probably know how to cast magic quite efficiently, and thus no longer need those things, with the exception of those that actually get consumed during a spell. The base Druid class is an excellent class for gaining access to some pretty powerful spells, the means to transform into almost any beast, and a natural way to increase the lifespan of your character immensely. This makes this class an extremely powerful class to play, but it does take a few levels before a character using this class really starts to be able to stand on their own, and that could be an issue for some players. However, that does complete the base class for the Druid class, and I highly recommend you look at the various class specialization videos that I've already recorded, especially if you're looking to get some more details about those particular class specializations. I will be sure to provide a link for the page that references all of those particular class specialization videos in the description below. I hope, however, that you found this video useful and informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.